So we got the first rankings that include Donald Trump when it comes to historians' rankings, presidential rankings of all time. And in the C-SPAN's 2021 President Historian Survey, it says former President Trump is the fourth lowest ranking U.S. president. So he's the fourth lowest. That's actually, I'm surprised that he's not at the lowest. But the people who are below him are all actually Civil War era presidents who I guess had led to the rise of the Civil War and were horrible presidents in preventing this from happening. So it says C-SPAN survey first conducted in 2000 includes 142 historians, professors, and other professional observers of the presidency who gave all former presidents a score from 1 to 10 in multiple leadership characteristics. The results are then averaged to tabulate a score. Trump received a score of 312, giving him a ranking of 41 and placing him above former Presidents Pierce, Andrew Johnson, and Buchanan. This is Trump's first time appearing on the list, with the last survey having been released in 2017 when his term had just begun. So what you can see here is I actually don't know really much of anything about Pierce or Buchanan, but from a quick search, they were right before the Civil War. They were presidents, and they did a horrible job. Apparently, Pierce was very anti-abolitionist, the abolitionist movement. Him and Buchanan, I guess, had led to the Civil War and what happened. I do know a good amount about Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson was the first president to ever be impeached. Trump was the second. So what happened with Andrew Johnson was he was chosen by Lincoln to be his vice president. I think he was someone that he chose in order to maybe appeal a little bit more towards people who were, anti-abolitionist and from the South. So he chose Andrew Johnson. Lincoln gets assassinated after the Civil War is over, and reparations and these kinds of things never really happened because Andrew Johnson didn't do shit. He didn't do anything to repair the country after what had happened and to help African Americans be able to do anything. And so what ended up happening as a result of that, the Republicans in Congress ended up passing the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment in response to him doing nothing. He gets impeached. They're trying to get his ass out of there. The Republicans, that is. They're trying to get him out of there so that they can get someone else in. The impeachment did go through the House, but it ended up failing in the Senate. They weren't able to take him out. So Andrew Johnson was horrible. He really fucked over the country for the future because black people were not really given a chance to succeed in the country. It was really, really horrible what he did. He really fucked them over pretty hard. He ruined this country pretty hard. So I understand why he's that low, and I guess I could see why you would have, them. I guess to historians, the Civil War era is a very important one, so that's kind of why he's there. Those are the three Civil War era presidents. So, it says, in comparison, former President Obama received a score of 664, making him 10th in the rankings. His ranking went up by 2 places, placing him above his 2 immediate predecessors, former President George W. Bush and Clinton, who ranked 21st and 19th, respectively. So I don't know the exact list of the presidents above him, but 10th is pretty high for President Obama. The thing you would have to look at is what the standard of the rest of the presidents really is. But the thing is, I don't really see how Obama could really get much of a high score. He was really He was simply ineffective as president of the United States. He admitted this himself when he basically explained that he was really good at getting elected, but when it came to actually passing legislation and getting his key things through, he wasn't really able to do it. The Iran deal was done through executive power, so it was easily dismantled by executive power, making it kind of useless. Essentially, it was ripped away. Most of the stuff he did was ripped away pretty fast. The Cuba relations thing was another one as well. Obamacare was neutered pretty hard. It survived for the most part, but it's still not fully survived yet. And even that was neutered under Trump because it was a very weak plan that was subject to a lot of executive power, and it didn't really work out. And even the things that he did, while you could consider them maybe in an American context to be stuff that was maybe monumental like Obamacare, really at the end of the day, the plan was the Heritage Foundation's plan. It's a shitty plan. It's a horrible plan. It's a mandate for private insurance, for fuck's sake. So is he 10th in the rankings because he was the first African American president? That's probably the main reason. I mean, other than that, I mean, he was really good. He was also really shitty, by the way, at getting, congressional members elected when he was president of the United States. He was god awful at that. So I'm really not sure how you put him at 10th. Again, I'd have to look at the total list, but I mean, there's got to be 10 presidents ahead of President Obama. I really don't know. I mean, and then look at what happened right after him. Like, look at how he set up the country, right? Trump comes right after him. Obama definitely deserves a lot of that blame, I would say, for sure. Yeah, he set up the country to sort of fall asleep, and he didn't really, deliver on any of his promises, and that leads a lot of people towards going towards Trump. So Trump being at number 4 on here, it says Lincoln is ranked number 1. He's been, every year the survey has been conducted. Obviously, he kept the country together through the Civil War, and so that ended up probably being the reason why. But I believe that Trump is not going to be a president that historians will look back on fondly. He just did too much stuff that was really unsound. He was very volatile, obviously. He was trying to damage a lot of institutions. He succeeded a lot in damaging a lot of institutions. We saw his whole situation with trying to cheat the election results in a totally insane manner. We saw that he was threatening not to leave the White House and all of this other stuff. So he's clearly not going to be somebody that historians look at fondly in any way. He didn't really have any really great moments of any kind. He was able to coast off of Obama's economy for a while, but then as soon as crisis hit, and I think this is really the main probably criterion for these historians, is when they look at like a response to crisis, because they look at this major leadership position as really being based upon what their leadership ability is. And so, they probably looked at his response to the George Floyd crisis as well as the COVID crisis, and they're like, damn, this guy does not know how to lead at all. He's trying to, quash protesters with the military, and he's denying COVID is real, and he's being a horrible statesman and letting his people die from coronavirus. So that's probably the main reason why they have him at 4th worst. I'm actually kind of surprised that due to recency bias, he's not 0. He's not at the bottom. I'm actually surprised at that. You can definitely see the recency bias in Obama, and you can see that Obama's passing, his predecessors. So it just goes to kind of show you the recency bias that's involved in these kinds of surveys. But it's definitely pretty interesting to see these presidential rankings. I am curious to see if he's going to go below 4, and if Pierce or Buchanan or Johnson will be able to pass him up. I'm not really sure. It'll be interesting to see, but he is not one. I think he's going to be a president that historians and academia look back at really shittily and like, wow, I think we're all going to look at that in the future. It's still, even now, after a term of Donald Trump, it's hard to believe that he was actually elected president of the United States. But pretty interesting to see this poll.